My in-laws threatened to boycott our entire wedding over our no children policy and called the entire family to cancel their flights. They told my fiancé's cousin is needed to bring her baby, but when we called the cousin directly, we learned the shocking truth that changed everything. My fiancé Elijah, 27M, and I, 26F, have been together for 5 years, engaged for 10 months. Our wedding is just 7 weeks away, and what should be the happiest time of our lives has turned into a battlefield because of one simple request. We asked for no children at our wedding. Last month, everything blew up at Sunday dinner with Elijah's parents. His mom Abigail started asking about seating arrangements, and I mentioned we'd finalized everything based on our no kids policy. She froze mid-bite and exchanged a look with Elijah's dad Ezra that made my stomach drop. Ezra put down his fork and asked if we were serious about not allowing any children. We both nodded. I explained that we'd been clear about this from the beginning. It was printed on all the invitations we sent out 2 months ago. Abigail started listing reasons why this was unacceptable. She mentioned Elijah's cousin Grace, who had a 14-month-old son. According to her, Grace had already booked flights for her entire family, including the baby, and wasn't aware of our no children rule. I reiterated that the information was clearly stated on the invitation. I also explained our reasons. The venue has a large swimming pool that's not fenced off, the reception would run late into the night, and alcohol would be flowing freely. Elijah added that we'd been to weddings where crying babies disrupted the ceremony, and we wanted to avoid that. Ezra's face turned red. He slammed his hand on the table, making the glasses jump. He told us we were being ridiculous and needed to make an exception for family. When we held firm, he escalated quickly. He stated that if we didn't allow Grace's baby to attend, he and Abigail would not come to the wedding. I looked at Elijah, whose face had gone pale. We excused ourselves immediately and left without finishing dinner. In the car, I grabbed Elijah's hand. His knuckles were white from clenching the steering wheel. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, Elijah broke the silence by saying he couldn't believe his parents would threaten to skip our wedding over this. For context, my parents are covering most of the wedding expenses except for the photographer and flowers, which Elijah and I are paying for ourselves. His parents haven't contributed financially despite being comfortable. This fact made their demands even more frustrating. Elijah and I have always agreed on the no children policy. The venue really is a safety concern. An unfenced pool at a night wedding with adults who will be drinking heavily isn't a good environment for kids. But beyond safety, we simply wanted a day where we could celebrate without worrying about little ones. It's worth mentioning that Elijah's relationship with his parents has always been strained. His older brother Jacob is clearly the favorite, while Elijah has been labeled the family disappointment for pursuing a career in graphic design instead of joining the family construction business. Since we started dating, Elijah has gotten better at standing up to his parents' constant criticism, but this situation was quickly spiraling out of our control. The day after the blow-up, we decided to call Grace directly. Her response surprised us. She had absolutely no issue with our no kids policy and had already arranged for her mother-in-law to watch the baby during the wedding. She seemed confused when we mentioned his parents' reaction and said she hadn't spoken to them about it at all. We felt relieved but also puzzled. We planned to talk to Elijah's parents the next day to clear things up, assuming it had been a simple misunderstanding. That evening, Elijah received a text from his brother Jacob. "You two really screwed up big time, and you better fix this. Mom and Dad are calling everyone from Dad's side of the family to tell them to cancel their flights and hotel reservations." This was no longer about one baby at a wedding, they were actively trying to sabotage our entire day. Elijah showed me more messages from his brother, each one more threatening than the last, all insisting we give in to their parents' demands. I called my mom and explained everything. She listened quietly, then asked to speak with Elijah. After talking to both of us, she offered to come with my dad to our meeting with Elijah's parents the next day. At first, I hesitated. I've always handled my own problems, but the situation had escalated beyond what we could manage alone. The next morning, we met at Elijah's parents' house. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Abigail and Ezra acted shocked to see my parents there. Abigail tried to frame the discussion as a family matter, but my mom firmly stated that since they were paying for the wedding, they were very much involved. When Elijah brought up the situation with Grace, his parents denied making any threats about boycotting the wedding or calling relatives. My dad called them out immediately, asking if they were prepared to cover the costs of the ceremony if they were so determined to control it. Every time Elijah or I tried to speak, his parents interrupted with dismissive comments or changed the subject. After the third interruption, my mom, who is usually soft-spoken and diplomatic, told Abigail to be quiet and listen to what your son is trying to tell you. The room went silent. Elijah took this opportunity to explain that we'd spoken directly with Grace, who confirmed she had no problem with our policy and had already arranged childcare. His parents looked shocked. They admitted they hadn't actually talked to Grace about this issue but had assumed she would be offended. The conversation shifted. Elijah expressed how hurt we were by their ultimatum and explained how important it was to us that they attend our wedding. My dad mentioned the contracts we'd signed with vendors and hinted at potential legal consequences if they interfered with our guest list. By the end of the meeting, his parents reluctantly admitted they had overreacted. They agreed not to contact other family members about skipping the wedding and confirmed they would attend. Ezra even made a joke about me being their new watchdog, which I took as a grudging acknowledgement of my refusal to back down. We left with tense hugs all around. In the car, Elijah said it was the first time he'd ever seen his parents back down from a demand. My parents assured us they would help in any way they could if problems arose again. That night, we received a call from Grace. She had contacted other family members to explain the situation after hearing about the drama from her sister. According to her, most of Elijah's relatives thought his parents were being ridiculous and fully supported our decision. Despite reaching a resolution, Elijah and I discussed what we would do if his parents caused more problems. We agreed that we would limit our contact with them, if necessary, especially once we started our own family. Elijah had no intention of exposing our future children to the same controlling behavior he experienced growing up. 7 weeks isn't a long time, but it feels like forever when you're waiting to see if your in-laws will cause another scene. For now, there's peace, but I'm keeping my guard up. Our wedding will happen with or without their approval. What matters most is that Elijah and I are united, something his parents are finally beginning to understand. Update 1: 3 weeks have passed since the confrontation with Elijah's parents, and I wish I could say everything has calmed down, but that would be far from the truth. Last weekend, we attended a family barbecue at Elijah's uncle's house. Most of his extended family was there, including Grace and her husband. Their baby was with the grandparents. Everything seemed fine at first. Abigail and Ezra were civil, even friendly with my parents who also attended. I started to think maybe we had moved past the wedding drama. During dinner, Elijah's Aunt Linda brought up our upcoming wedding, asking about final preparations. I mentioned our last venue visit and how we were finalizing the menu. That's when Abigail interrupted to announce that she had taken the liberty of changing our rehearsal dinner reservations from the small Italian restaurant we had chosen to a larger venue that could accommodate children. Elijah and I exchanged glances. We hadn't even planned to have a rehearsal dinner because of our tight budget. Abigail continued explaining that she had invited several additional family members, most with young children, to this dinner she had arranged without our knowledge or consent. When Elijah asked who was paying for this dinner, Ezra smugly replied that they were, so they should have a say in who attends. He made it clear this was their compromise. They would respect our wishes for the wedding ceremony and reception, but expected us to include children in the rehearsal dinner they were now hosting. I felt ambushed. Everyone was watching us, waiting for our reaction, and I didn't want to cause another scene. Elijah thanked his parents for the offer but said we would need to discuss it privately first. Abigail appeared satisfied with this response, clearly believing we would eventually agree. On the drive home, Elijah was unusually quiet. When we arrived at our apartment, he revealed that his brother Jacob had called him earlier that day with an unexpected confession. Apparently, Elijah's parents had never intended to call relatives about boycotting the wedding. It had been Jacob's idea to send those threatening texts, hoping to pressure us into changing our minds because he wanted to bring his new girlfriend's 4-year-old daughter to the wedding. I was shocked. Jacob had deliberately escalated the situation to manipulate us, and Elijah's parents had either gone along with it or allowed him to act on their behalf. Either way, they had lied to our faces during our confrontation. The next day, we visited my parents to discuss the rehearsal dinner situation. My dad pointed out that this could be Elijah's parents' attempt to save face with the family. By hosting an event that included children, they could position themselves as the reasonable ones while still making it appear they had won a concession from us. Elijah called his parents that evening. He thanked them for the rehearsal dinner offer but explained that we had already arranged a small gathering with just the wedding party at our apartment after the rehearsal. He suggested they could host a separate family dinner sometime before or after the wedding weekend if they wanted to include the extended family. Abigail didn't take this well. She accused Elijah of rejecting their olive branch and suggested I was turning him against his family. Elijah defended me immediately, reminding his mother that we make decisions together. The call ended with Abigail hanging up abruptly. The following day, we received an email from Ezra, copying several family members including Jacob and Grace. In it, he announced that they would proceed with their dinner as planned and hoped we would reconsider our priorities. He framed our refusal as selfishness and disrespect toward family traditions. Grace called us immediately after receiving the email. She apologized for being caught in the middle and assured us she supported whatever decision we made. She also mentioned something interesting. Jacob's new girlfriend Melissa had been pushing to be more involved in the wedding plans, apparently making comments about how she would handle things differently if she were planning it. This new information made Jacob's behavior make more sense. It wasn't just about bringing a child to the wedding, it was about Melissa wanting to establish herself within the family by influencing our wedding. Elijah drafted a response to his father's email, copying the same people. He politely but firmly clarified that while we appreciated the gesture, we would not be attending a rehearsal dinner we hadn't planned. He explained that our wedding weekend was carefully scheduled and we couldn't accommodate last-minute changes. After sending the email, Elijah received multiple text messages from relatives expressing their support. Even his grandmother, who rarely takes sides in family disputes, called to say she thought his parents were being unreasonable. The most surprising support came from Elijah's cousin Eric, who revealed that Ezra and Abigail had pulled similar stunts at his wedding 5 years ago, trying to force him and his wife to invite distant relatives they had never met. Eric regretted giving in to their demands and encouraged us to stand our ground. Yesterday, Jacob stopped by our apartment unannounced. He asked to speak with Elijah alone, but Elijah insisted I stay. Jacob admitted to sending the threatening text but claimed he was just trying to help resolve the situation. When Elijah pressed him about Melissa's involvement, Jacob became defensive and accused us of trying to exclude her from family events. He left after Elijah made it clear that our wedding decisions were not open for debate. With just 4 weeks until our wedding, the situation remains tense. Ezra and Abigail are proceeding with their rehearsal dinner, even though we've stated we won't attend. Several relatives have reached out asking for clarification about the events, unsure which information is accurate. Elijah and I have decided to focus on our original plans and ignore the drama as much as possible. My parents have been incredibly supportive, handling some of the vendor communications to reduce our stress. We've also hired a day of coordinator to manage any potential issues that might arise at the wedding itself. Despite everything, Elijah and I are more united than ever. Each confrontation has reinforced that we're making the right decision and prioritizing our boundaries. The wedding is about us, not about appeasing family members who don't respect our wishes. Update 2: with our wedding just 2 weeks away, I thought things couldn't get more complicated. I was wrong. Last week, we received our finalized guest count from the RSVP cards. Several of Elijah's relatives who had initially confirmed their attendance had changed their responses to regretfully decline. When Elijah called his cousin Tyler to ask why he was no longer coming, Tyler hesitantly admitted that Abigail had called him, claiming our venue had changed policies and now required all guests to pay their own bar tabs. This was completely false. We were stunned. After everything that had happened, Elijah's parents were still trying to sabotage our wedding by spreading misinformation to guests. Elijah immediately sent a message to all his relatives clarifying that there had been no changes to the venue or reception details. Most responded with surprise, having believed Abigail's claims without questioning them. That same day, we learned that Ezra and Abigail had gone ahead with planning their rehearsal dinner, sending out formal invitations to family members that included a line saying in celebration of Elijah and Emma's wedding. Several confused relatives contacted us, asking if this was an official wedding event they were expected to attend. Elijah was furious. He called his father and demanded they stop misrepresenting their dinner as part of our wedding celebrations. Ezra dismissed his concerns, saying they were just trying to include everyone since we had chosen such an exclusive approach to our wedding. After that call, Elijah sat in silence for nearly an hour. When he finally spoke, he suggested we consider eloping instead. The constant stress and manipulation from his family was overshadowing what should have been a joyful time. I reminded him of all the people who genuinely supported us, my family, our friends, and even some of his relatives who had seen through his parents' behavior. We decided to continue with our original plans but took additional precautions. We contacted our venue and vendors to establish passwords for making any changes to our arrangements. We also confirmed with our day of coordinator that only Elijah, myself, or my parents were authorized to give directions on the wedding day. 2 days ago, Jacob's girlfriend Melissa messaged me on social media. She claimed she wanted to clear the air before the wedding and suggested meeting for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed. At the coffee shop, Melissa started by apologizing for any misunderstandings but quickly shifted to explaining how hurt Abigail had been by our decision to exclude children. She revealed something I hadn't known. Abigail had been planning to announce at our reception that she and Ezra would be paying for a family vacation to celebrate their 35th wedding anniversary. The vacation was supposedly scheduled for next summer and would include all family members, including children. According to Melissa, our no children policy had ruined this surprise because Abigail felt it sent the wrong message about the importance of family. Now Abigail was reconsidering the vacation plan entirely. I realized this meeting wasn't about clearing the air, it was another attempt to manipulate us through guilt. I thanked Melissa for sharing this information but explained that our wedding decisions were separate from any future family gatherings. I also pointed out that if Abigail truly wanted to celebrate family, she could have mentioned this vacation plan to us directly instead of using it as leverage. When I told Elijah about the meeting, he wasn't surprised. He'd suspected his parents might have had ulterior motives all along. What did surprise him was learning about this vacation plan, something his parents had never mentioned to him despite supposedly including him in it. Yesterday, we received an unexpected call from Grace. She had attended the rehearsal dinner organized by Elijah's parents, and what she described was revealing. Abigail had spent the evening portraying herself as the victim, claiming we had excluded them from wedding planning and rejected their attempts to contribute. Several relatives had apparently expressed sympathy for Abigail, especially those who weren't aware of the full situation. More concerning was what Grace overheard between Jacob and his father. They were discussing the possibility of Ezra making an announcement or speech at our reception, even though we hadn't planned for his involvement in that part of the event. Grace warned us because she thought their intentions seemed confrontational rather than celebratory. This morning, Elijah made one of the hardest decisions of his life. He called his parents and informed them that if they couldn't respect our wishes for our wedding day, they shouldn't attend at all. He explained that we were aware of their continued attempts to undermine our plans and spread misinformation to guests, and we wouldn't tolerate any more interference. Abigail broke down crying, accusing Elijah of choosing me over his family. Ezra took the phone and told Elijah he would regret this decision. The call ended with Ezra saying they would still come to the wedding but would never forget this insult. We immediately contacted our venue security and provided photos of Elijah's parents, brother, and Melissa, instructing them to watch for any disruptive behavior. We also asked my brother to stay close to us during the reception in case intervention was needed. With just 2 weeks remaining, we're focusing on final details and trying to remain positive. Many guests have reached out to express their support after learning about the situation. Elijah's grandmother even called to say she was proud of him for standing up for himself, something she wished she had done more often with her own in-laws. Despite the drama, we're determined to have the wedding we've planned. Elijah and I have grown even closer through this ordeal, reinforcing that we can face challenges together. Whatever happens on our wedding day, we'll face it as a team. Update 3: It's been a month since our wedding day, and I'm finally ready to share what happened and where things stand now. The morning of our wedding arrived with perfect weather and an unexpected sense of calm. The preparations went smoothly, and by afternoon, I was getting dressed with my bridesmaids while Elijah was with his groomsmen in another room. About an hour before the ceremony, my mom received a call from the venue security. Elijah's parents had arrived early and were insisting on seeing Elijah immediately. The security guard was following our instructions to prevent any unexpected confrontations. My mom handled the situation, meeting with Abigail and Ezra in the venue lobby. According to her, they appeared unusually subdued. Abigail asked if Elijah was refusing to see them, and my mom explained he was busy getting ready but would see them shortly before the ceremony as planned. They reluctantly agreed to wait. When Elijah went to meet his parents, he brought his best man Alex with him as support. Abigail was crying, not the dramatic tears from their previous confrontations, but quiet, resigned ones. Ezra spoke first, saying they had realized they might have overstepped in some ways. He stopped short of a full apology but acknowledged their behavior had caused tension. Abigail added that she didn't want to miss her son's wedding and promised there would be no disruptions. Elijah thanked them for coming and assured them they were welcome as long as the day proceeded as planned. The exchange was brief but significant. It was the closest his parents had come to recognizing their actions. The ceremony went perfectly. Elijah's parents sat quietly in the front row, and Jacob attended without Melissa. There were no interruptions during the vows, no objections raised, nothing but the celebration we had envisioned. At the reception, we had arranged the seating to place Elijah's parents at a table with my uncle, who works as a mediator and has a calming presence. This proved to be a wise decision. When Ezra attempted to approach the microphone during the scheduled toasts, my uncle smoothly intercepted him, engaging him in conversation until the moment passed. The most unexpected moment came during the dancing. Elijah's father approached us on the dance floor and asked if Elijah would mind if he danced with me. Elijah looked to me for my reaction, and I nodded. During our brief dance, Ezra told me he respected how I had stood by his son and apologized for getting off on the wrong foot. It wasn't effusive, but it felt sincere. A week after the wedding, we left for our honeymoon in Portugal. We had decided to turn off our phones completely for the 10 days we were away, the best decision we could have made. When we returned, we found numerous messages from family and friends saying what a beautiful wedding it had been. Among the messages was a surprisingly lengthy email from Abigail. In it, she explained that seeing us at the wedding had made her realize she risked losing her relationship with her son if things continued as they had been. She admitted to spreading misinformation about our wedding arrangements and acknowledged it was wrong. She also revealed something illuminating. Much of her behavior stemmed from feeling excluded from the wedding planning process, as her own mother had controlled every aspect of her wedding 35 years ago. She had expected to have the same level of input with her son's wedding. While her email helped us understand her perspective better, it didn't erase the months of stress and manipulation. Elijah responded with a brief message thanking her for her honesty and suggesting we all take some time to reflect before moving forward. 2 weeks ago, we invited his parents to dinner at a neutral location, a restaurant halfway between our apartment and their house. The conversation was awkward at first, but gradually became more natural. We established some basic ground rules for our relationship going forward: direct communication instead of involving other family members, respect for our decisions as a couple, and the understanding that trust would need to be rebuilt over time. Ezra seemed less convinced than Abigail about the need for these boundaries, but he agreed to try. We ended the evening on cautiously positive terms, with plans to meet again in a month. Jacob has made no attempt to contact us since the wedding. According to Grace, he and Melissa broke up shortly after our reception, apparently due to disagreements about her involvement in family matters. Elijah isn't particularly troubled by his brother's absence. Their relationship has always been strained, and the wedding drama only confirmed the patterns that have existed for years. As for Elijah and me, this experience has solidified our commitment to maintaining healthy boundaries. We've had several conversations about how we'll handle family situations in the future, especially once we decide to have children. We're aligned in our determination to break the cycle of manipulation and control that marked Elijah's childhood. My parents continue to be supportive, offering advice when asked but respecting our space to navigate this new chapter. Elijah has grown particularly close to my dad, often calling him for guidance on handling challenging conversations with his parents. Looking back, I realize how close we came to allowing others to hijack what was supposed to be our day. Standing firm on our decisions wasn't easy, but it established an important precedent for our marriage. Elijah told me recently that seeing me refuse to be intimidated by his parents gave him the strength to do the same. We don't know what the future holds with Elijah's family. The peace we've established feels fragile, but it's a starting point. For now, we're focusing on building our life together, creating our own traditions, and defining family in a way that prioritizes mutual respect and support. One thing is certain, whatever challenges come our way, we'll face them together, just as we did on the path to our wedding day. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. I caught my wife cheating with our babysitter's husband, then discovered they were running a multi-state scam operation that my wife was involved in before we even met him. Robert, 30 years old, and I need to share my story. My wife Eliza, 28F, and I've been married for 3 years now. Our relationship started in a whirlwind of passion and rebellion. Both our families were against our union for various reasons, but we fought against all odds to be together. We thought we were living our own fairy tale, proving everyone wrong about our love. A year into our marriage, Eliza got pregnant, and we were overjoyed. We welcomed our beautiful baby girl, Sophie, into the world. Everything seemed perfect. I had a demanding job, so we decided to hire a babysitter to help out with Sophie when both of us were busy. We found Maria, 35F, who seemed great with kids. She often came with her husband, Tom, 37M, who would drop her off and pick her up. I didn't think much of it at first. They seemed like a nice couple, and Maria was excellent with Sophie. About 6 months ago, I started noticing something odd. Tom would linger around after dropping Maria off. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just being protective of his wife. But then I noticed he wasn't always leaving immediately. He'd park his car down the street and wait. I found it strange but didn't want to jump to conclusions. Last month, I had to leave work early due to a canceled meeting. I decided to surprise Eliza by coming home early and maybe suggesting we go out for dinner. When I entered our house, I heard strange noises coming from our bedroom. My heart started racing as I approached the door. What I saw next will haunt me forever. Eliza was in bed with Tom, our babysitter's husband. They were so engrossed that they didn't even notice me at first. Maria was sitting in a chair in the corner of the room, just watching them. I felt like I was in some twisted nightmare. I must have made a sound because suddenly all eyes were on me. Eliza's face went pale, and Tom scrambled to get dressed. Maria just sat there, looking oddly calm. I couldn't process what was happening. I stumbled out of the room and went to check on Sophie, who was thankfully napping peacefully in her room. When I came back, Eliza was in tears, begging me to let her explain. Tom and Maria had left. I couldn't even look at my wife. I asked her how long this had been going on. She confessed that it had been happening for months. But the real shock came when she told me that she had been paying Maria extra to allow this arrangement. My wife, the mother of my child, had been paying our babysitter to let her cheat on me with the babysitter's husband. The level of betrayal and deceit was beyond anything I could have imagined. I was completely broken. The woman I had fought so hard to be with, the one I thought was my soulmate, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I wanted to leave right then and there, but Sophie's face flashed in my mind. She was innocent in all of this, and I couldn't bear the thought of her growing up in a broken home. Against my better judgment, I decided to give Eliza a second chance for Sophie's sake. I laid down some strict rules. Maria and Tom were out of our lives for good. Eliza had to be completely transparent with her phone and social media, and we would start couples counseling immediately. Eliza agreed to everything, crying and promising she would change. She swore it was a moment of weakness that spiraled out of control. I wanted to believe her, but every time I looked at her, all I could see was her with Tom. The next few months were hell. I was dying inside every day. The trust was completely shattered, and no matter how hard Eliza tried, I couldn't shake the feelings of hatred and disgust that had taken root in my heart. But I put on a brave face for Sophie, trying to create a semblance of normalcy in our home. I threw myself into work and spent every free moment with Sophie. Eliza and I barely talked beyond what was necessary for co-parenting. The counseling sessions were painful and felt pointless. How do you rebuild something that's been so thoroughly destroyed? 2 years passed in this miserable state. I thought I was doing the right thing by keeping our family together, but I was just prolonging my own suffering. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. My friend Jack called me last week. He had seen Eliza at the mall, and she wasn't alone. She was with Tom, holding hands and acting very much like a couple. Jack sent me a picture, and my world crumbled all over again. I confronted Eliza as soon as she got home. At first, she tried to deny it, saying Jack must have been mistaken. But when I showed her the picture, she broke down. She admitted that she had never stopped seeing Tom. All those shopping trips and girls' nights out had been lies. She had been living a double life this entire time. I was done. No more second chances, no more sacrificing my happiness for a failed marriage. I told Eliza to pack her bags and leave. She begged and pleaded, saying she would change for real this time, but I was beyond caring. I had given her 2 years of my life that I could never get back. I've contacted a divorce lawyer, and we're moving forward with the proceedings. I'm fighting for full custody of Sophie. Given Eliza's infidelity and deception, my lawyer thinks we have a strong case. I'm not giving Eliza a cent in alimony. She made her choice, and now she has to live with the consequences. I know the road ahead won't be easy, especially for Sophie, but I can't continue living this lie. I'd rather be a happy single father than a miserable married one. I'm sharing this story because I need support and advice. How do I move forward from here? How do I explain this to Sophie when she's older? And most importantly, how do I trust anyone again after this level of betrayal? Update 1: It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. A lot has happened, and I'm still trying to process it all. First, the divorce proceedings are moving forward. My lawyer is confident about our case for full custody of Sophie. Eliza has moved out and is staying with her parents. They've been calling non-stop, trying to convince me to give her another chance, but I'm standing firm. Now, here's where things take an unexpected turn. Remember Maria, our ex-babysitter? Well, she reached out to me last week, asking to meet. I was hesitant at first, but she insisted it was important. We met at a coffee shop, and what she told me turned my world upside down once again. Maria confessed that she and Tom had been working together to scam couples for years. They would find couples where one partner was vulnerable or unhappy, and Tom would seduce them. Maria would then use this as blackmail material to extort money from the cheating partner. In our case, Eliza had fallen for their trap hook, line, and sinker. I was stunned. Maria showed me evidence, text messages, bank transfers, even some videos, which I refused to watch. She said she was coming clean because she couldn't live with the guilt anymore. Apparently, our case had affected her more than the others because of Sophie. While this doesn't excuse Eliza's actions, she still made the choice to cheat. It does add another layer to the whole sordid affair. Maria told me that Eliza had tried to end things several times, but they threatened to expose her if she didn't keep paying and allowing the affair to continue. I asked Maria why she was telling me all this now. She said that Tom had left her for another woman, one of their more recent targets, and she wanted revenge. She's willing to testify in our divorce proceedings, which my lawyer says could be a game changer. I'm still processing all of this information. On one hand, I feel a small degree of pity for Eliza, knowing she was manipulated and blackmailed. On the other hand, she still made the initial choice to cheat, and she lied to me for years. The betrayal is still there, even if the circumstances are more complex than I initially thought. I've informed my lawyer about this new development, and we're incorporating it into our strategy. We're also looking into pressing charges against Tom and Maria for their extortion scheme. Eliza doesn't know that I know about this yet. Part of me wants to confront her, to see if she'll finally tell the whole truth. But another part of me just wants to be done with all of this and move on with my life. Sophie is doing okay, all things considered. She's too young to understand what's happening, but she does ask for her mom sometimes. It breaks my heart, but I know in the long run, this is better than living in a house full of lies and resentment. I'm focusing on being the best dad I can be. I've taken some time off work to spend with Sophie, and it's been healing for both of us. My parents have been a tremendous help, coming over to assist with childcare and just providing emotional support. As for me, I'm still angry and hurt, but I'm also determined to come out of this stronger. I've started seeing a therapist to work through my trust issues and to make sure I'm in the best mental state to care for Sophie. I'm not sure what my next steps should be. Should I confront Eliza with this new information? Should I just let the lawyers handle everything? And how do I even begin to explain all of this to Sophie when she's older? Any advice would be appreciated. Thank you all again for your support during this difficult time. Update 2: It's been a month since my last update, and the situation has evolved in ways I never expected. I want to thank everyone again for their support and advice. It's been invaluable during this challenging time. After much consideration, I decided to confront Eliza with the information Maria had given me. I felt she deserved a chance to explain her side of the story, even if it wouldn't change the outcome of our divorce. I invited Eliza to a neutral location, a quiet park where we used to take Sophie. When I told her what I knew, her reaction was not what I expected. She broke down completely, admitting to everything and more. It turns out, the rabbit hole goes even deeper than I thought. Eliza revealed that she had known Tom and Maria before we even got married. In fact, they were the reason our families were against our marriage in the first place. Eliza confessed that she had been part of their scamming operation before meeting me. She claimed that when she met me, she fell in love for real and wanted to leave that life behind. But Tom and Maria had dirt on her past activities and threatened to expose her if she didn't continue working with them. Our entire relationship, from the whirlwind romance to the rebellion against our families, had been orchestrated as part of their long con. Eliza said she had genuinely fallen for me and wanted to build a real life together, but she couldn't escape her past. The affair with Tom, the payments to Maria, it was all part of their twisted game. Eliza claimed she had been trying to find a way out for years, but every time she tried to end it, they would threaten to reveal everything, not just to me, but to the police as well. I was speechless. The woman I thought I knew, The life I thought we had built together, it was all based on lies. Every happy memory, every milestone we shared, was tainted by this revelation. Eliza begged for forgiveness, saying she had wanted to tell me the truth so many times but was too scared of losing everything, me, Sophie, her freedom. She said she had finally gathered the courage to come clean and turn herself in, which is why she had been meeting with Tom that day my friend saw them. I didn't know how to process this information. On one hand, I felt a tiny bit of sympathy for Eliza, trapped in a situation of her own making. On the other hand, the level of deception was beyond anything I could have imagined or forgiven. I told Eliza that while I appreciated her finally telling the truth, it didn't change anything about our divorce or my desire for full custody of Sophie. She understood and didn't fight it. What she did next surprised me. Eliza said she was going to turn herself in to the police and provide evidence against Tom and Maria's entire operation. She said she wanted to make amends, even if it meant serving time. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of this. My lawyer is working overtime to navigate this complex situation. We're cooperating with the authorities to bring down Tom and Maria's operation, which apparently spans several states and has affected numerous families. As for Sophie, I'm more determined than ever to protect her from all of this. My parents have been incredible, offering to help me raise her while I sort out this mess. I'm grateful for their support, especially now that I know why they were so against my marriage to Eliza in the first place. I'm angry, hurt, and feel like a complete fool. But I'm also relieved in a way. At least now I know the whole truth, as ugly as it is. I can start to heal and move forward without any lingering doubts or what-ifs. My focus now is on Sophie and ensuring she has a stable, loving environment. I'm also working on myself, continuing therapy to process all of this and to make sure I don't carry this baggage into future relationships. I know the road ahead will be tough, especially when it comes to explaining all of this to Sophie when she's older. But I'm committed to being honest with her, in an age-appropriate way, and showing her that it's possible to overcome even the most difficult challenges. Thank you all for listening and for your continued support. If anyone has experience dealing with such complex family situations, I'd appreciate any advice on how to move forward, especially when it comes to co-parenting with someone who's facing legal troubles. Update 3: It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share how things have progressed. A lot has changed, and while it hasn't been easy, I finally feel like I'm on a path towards healing and a better future. First, the legal matters. Eliza followed through on her word and turned herself into the authorities. She provided extensive evidence against Tom and Maria's operation, which led to their arrest and the uncovering of a multi-state fraud ring. The case is still ongoing, but it looks like they'll be facing significant jail time. As for Eliza, due to her cooperation and the circumstances of her involvement, she was offered a plea deal. She'll serve some time, but not as much as Tom and Maria. She's also required to pay restitution to the victims of their scams. Our divorce was finalized 3 months ago. Given the circumstances, the judge granted me full custody of Sophie. Eliza has limited, supervised visitation rights for now, which will be reassessed after she serves her sentence. Sophie is doing well, all things considered. She's too young to understand the complexities of the situation, but she knows that mommy did something wrong and has to go away for a while. I've been working with a child psychologist to ensure we're handling this in the best way possible for her emotional well-being. My parents have been my rock through all of this. They've moved closer to help with Sophie, and their support has been invaluable. I've also reconnected with old friends who have been incredibly supportive. As for me, I'm still processing everything, but I'm in a much better place now. Therapy has been crucial in helping me work through my trust issues and anger. I'm learning to forgive, not for Eliza's sake, but for my own peace of mind and for Sophie's future. I've thrown myself into being the best father I can be. Sophie and I have our routines now, and seeing her smile and grow despite everything that's happened gives me strength every day. Work has been understanding throughout this ordeal. I've scaled back my hours to focus on Sophie, and they've been supportive of this decision. I've also started volunteering at a support group for people who've been victims of fraud and deception. Sharing my story and helping others has been unexpectedly therapeutic. As for future relationships, I'm not ready to dive back into dating yet. My focus is on Sophie and on continuing to heal. When the time is right, I know I'll be able to approach relationships with a healthier perspective. Looking back, I realize how naive I was, but I don't blame myself anymore. I've learned valuable lessons about trust, forgiveness, and resilience. I'm committed to teaching Sophie these lessons as she grows up, to help her navigate the complexities of life and relationships. To everyone who's followed my story and offered support and advice, thank you. Your words have been a source of comfort and strength during the darkest times. For those who might be going through similar situations, my advice is this: it's okay to feel hurt, angry, and betrayed. But don't let those feelings consume you. Focus on what truly matters. In my case, it's Sophie. And remember, it's possible to rebuild and find happiness again, even after the most earth.